Today's mindful moment. Have you ever thought about accidents? Like really thought about them? We tend to see them as these isolated things, a sudden break in the normal flow of things. But what if they're not so isolated after all?
Interesting.
What if they're connected in ways we don't usually see? Like a thread pulled in a huge tapestry, sending ripples outwards.
Yeah, that's a really intriguing way to put it. It makes you wonder about the whole idea of something happening randomly.
Right. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. The connections woven into a seemingly random tragedy. We're going to explore the collapse of the Bridge of San Luis Rey in Peru back in 1714. 5 lives ended in an instant.
A tragedy frozen in time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to guide us through this, we'll be looking at Thornton Wilder's amazing novel, The Bridge of San Luis Rey. The book takes this catastrophic event and really dives deep into the lives that intersected on that bridge.
It's a story that makes you think about fate and chance.
It really does. Think of our exploration today as a journey to trace those hidden connections, to see if there's something more, a deeper meaning in these 5 lives ending together.
More than just coincidence.
It's not about finding a definitive answer, but more about seeking a richer understanding of what connects us as humans, our shared experiences.
So where do we begin unraveling this tapestry?
Well, the novel introduces us to someone who embodies this very quest for connection and meaning, Brother Juniper, a Franciscan friar who actually witnessed the bridge collapse. What's striking is his immediate reaction.
Yeah, it wasn't just the usual shock or grief you'd expect.
Exactly. It was this profound, almost urgent question. Why these 5? For the next 6 years, he dedicates himself to this immense investigation. Talk about dedication to a question. It shows how convinced he was that there had to be some pattern, some divine reason behind this tragedy.
He's trying to make sense of the senseless, to find order in chaos.
And he believes it's all part of a divine plan, a narrative that he can uncover. So let's delve into one of the lives he meticulously researched, Doña Maria, the Marquesa de Montemayor. Right away, Wilder paints a picture of a woman deeply unhappy.
Her life seems to have been shaped by a lack of self-acceptance and genuine affection. She was constantly being judged by society's standards and found lacking.
And that likely fueled her intense inner world. It's almost like she lived more inside her own head than in the real world, especially after her daughter Clara got married and moved to Spain. Their relationship, by the way, seems incredibly complex.
Oh, absolutely. It's a mix of intense emotions and distance.
And that physical distance caused by Clara's move only seemed to heighten the emotional complexities.
It really highlights the limitations of connection when you're separated by such a vast distance. Relying on letters with months-long delays. It creates so much space for misunderstandings and unfulfilled yearnings.
Back in Lima, the Marquesa's isolation just gets worse. Wilder paints this picture of her retreating into eccentricities and these almost theatrical internal dialogues with Clara.
It's her way of coping, of keeping Clara alive in her mind despite the distance.
And it's so heartbreaking because it paints this stark picture of loneliness.
It really does. And it shows how isolation can distort our sense of self and our connection to the world around us.
So while her behavior might have seemed odd to Lima society, it seems to stem from this deep yearning for connection. After Clara's departure, she develops this, let's call it, unconventional relationship with a young orphan named Pepilla from the convent of Santa Maria Rosa de las Rosas.
Ah, yes, Pepita, who was deeply influenced by the abbess, Madre Maria del Pilar. Now, she's a fascinating character in her own right.
Oh, for sure. She appears as this central figure, almost like a puppet master, in the lives of several people who died on the bridge.
Her reasons for allowing Pepita to become the Marquesa's companion are intriguing, to say the least. It makes you wonder if it was a genuine act of kindness, or maybe a calculated move within her own sphere of influence.
The novel then shifts its focus to the Marquesa's anxieties during Clara's pregnancy. She becomes obsessed with superstitions and religious rituals, even embarking on a pilgrimage to Santa Maria de Luxemburgo to seek protection for her unborn grandchild.
It's a moment of intense reflection for her, a spiritual journey of sorts. And it's during this pilgrimage that she receives a letter from Pepita, a letter revealing Pepita's own feelings of loneliness.
And that becomes a turning point for her. Right before their journey back to Lima, the Marquesa, inspired by Pepita's heartfelt words, writes this new letter to Clara. It's described as her first stumbling misspelled letter in courage, a stark contrast to her usually emotionally charged letters.
It's a pivotal moment. After years of a difficult and often demanding relationship with Clara, she seems to be on the verge of a genuine connection.
Exactly. It suggests a shift towards a more mature, less self-centered kind of love. And it's with this newfound courage and vulnerability that she travels towards that fateful bridge.
Speaking of connections, we also have the story of the twins, Manuel and Esteban, also raised in the convent of Santa Maria Rosa de las Rosas. Their bond is portrayed as almost mystical, forged through shared experiences and even a private language.
They were practically inseparable, each other's whole world. Their upbringing created this incredibly tight, almost symbiotic relationship.
And that makes sense. In a world where they lacked a traditional family, they found solace and understanding only in each other.
But this perfect unity starts to crumble when Manuel becomes infatuated with the actress La Pericole. Esteban, always the quieter of the two, experiences this shift in his brother's focus with a deep, unspoken pain.
It's a classic case of a two-person dynamic being disrupted by a third element. Esteban struggles to understand the depth of Manuel's feelings, and this creates a growing rift between them.
And there's that really poignant scene where La Pericole comes to their room late at night, asking Manuel to write a letter for her. Esteban feels completely shut out from this intimate exchange, further highlighting the growing emotional distance between him and his brother.
It's a crystallization of Esteban's deep-seated insecurity. He sees Manuel forming a new, exclusive bond with Camila, leaving him feeling like an outsider, completely in the way.
Then Manuel suddenly declares he's done with La Pericole. But even then, Esteban's reaction reveals how deep his insecurity runs. He almost can't believe it, expecting it to be temporary or some kind of act. He's convinced of his own unimportance.
Tragically, Manuel falls ill, and in his delirium, he utters words of resentment towards Esteban. It's a cruel blow to Esteban, who, despite this, remains completely devoted to caring for his brother.
After Manuel's death, Esteban is utterly consumed by grief. He wanders aimlessly, briefly reconnecting with Madre Maria del Pilar, and even encounters Captain Alvarado, who offers him a way out, a chance to escape on a voyage.
It's a potential turning point for Esteban, an opportunity to break free from his grief and start anew. He even prepares to leave. But then, at the last minute, he changes his mind.
It's like something is holding him back, tying him to Lima. Maybe it's the memory of his brother, unresolved guilt, or simply the weight of his loss.
It's a reminder that even seemingly small choices can have profound and unforeseen consequences.
And in a heartbreaking twist of fate, it's on that very bridge, the one he chose not to cross by sea, that Esteban meets his end. It's as if fate, or maybe just circumstance, had other plans for him.
It really underscores the unpredictable nature of life.
Now, let's turn our attention to Uncle Pio. At first, the Marquesa de Montemayor in her letters portrays him as this almost comical figure, calling him our aged harlequin. But he played a much more significant role in the life of another bridge victim, Camila Pericole.
Absolutely. He was so much more than just a comical figure. He was Camila's confidant, her singing teacher, her dresser, her guide in the world of theater. There were even whispers of a closer familial connection.
He was instrumental in her rise to fame as La Pericole. Wilder reveals that Uncle Pio had three main aspirations: independence through secret knowledge, being close to beautiful women, and a deep love for Spanish literature, especially the theater.
He was a fascinating character, thriving in the background, pulling strings and influencing those around him.
Especially Camila. Their relationship was particularly complex. He saw her raw talent and dedicated himself to nurturing it, shaping her into the renowned actress she became. But their bond, while deep and enduring, wasn't romantic.
Their dynamic during Camila's performances is so vividly described in the book. Uncle Pio, with his incredibly critical eye, would watch her every move. And Camila, despite the adoration of the crowds, craved his approval above all else.
It speaks to the unique power he had in her life. He was her mentor, her harshest critic, and probably her most unwavering supporter. But as Camila's ambition grew beyond the stage, as she sought social status and acceptance in Lima society, Uncle Pio felt a sense of disappointment. He valued her artistry more than any societal validation.
He believed in her talent and wanted her to shine on her own terms, not society's.
Their final conversation at the resort really highlights the depth of his selfless affection for her. Even though she's moving away from the theater, his main passion, he still supports her. And later, when her relationship with the Viceroy ends and she retreats from public life with her son, Don Jaime, Uncle Pio steps in to care for them.
It's a beautiful example of a life dedicated to others, showing how our lives become intertwined through acts of love and loyalty. It makes you think about the unseen web of connections we all share.
And their journey together, this testament to his love and commitment, also ends tragically on that bridge. So, after 6 years of relentless investigation, Brother Juniper finishes this massive book, filled with countless details about the 5 victims, trying to reveal God's plan in their deaths. But the narrator points out something crucial. Despite all his research, he never truly grasped their core passions, the driving forces in their lives.
His approach was too analytical, too focused on finding a neat explanation within a rigid theological framework. He missed the messy, emotional core of human experience.
And in a cruel twist of irony, Brother Juniper's life's work is deemed heretical. His book, and eventually he himself, are condemned and burned. His quest for absolute answers, for imposing order on chaos, ends in destruction.
It shows the limits of trying to force a single rational explanation onto something as complex as human existence and the mysteries of fate.
Which brings us back to Brother Juniper's initial question. Why did this happen to those 5? Wilder's novel doesn't give us a clear-cut answer. We see glimpses of fate, chance, human choices, but no definitive explanation.
It's more about how these lives intersected, how they loved, how they suffered. The significance might lie not in some grand design, but in the intricate connections between us.
Like the connections explored in Mindful Moments, Nourish Your Mind on the Go, an AI-narrated audiobook analysis YouTube channel. They delve into works like The Bridge of San Luis Rey and offer thought-provoking insights into the human experience.
That's a great resource for anyone who wants to explore these themes further.
It really is. And it brings us to the idea of the bridge as a metaphor for human connection. While the ultimate plan may remain a mystery, the novel beautifully illustrates how love, in all its forms, creates these vital, although sometimes fragile, links between people. It gives meaning and purpose even in the face of tragedy.
It shifts our perspective from a potentially unknowable divine will to the very real and lasting power of human relationships. As Wilder himself reflected, the lasting appeal of the book lies in this very tension between accident and design, ultimately emphasizing the human element.
So think about the relationships you cherish, the people who have shaped your journey. Consider those seemingly chance encounters that changed your path. Maybe, like the lives we've explored today, there are invisible bridges of affection, shared experiences, and unspoken understanding connecting those moments.
And that leaves us with a thought-provoking question for you, our listener. If not a predetermined divine plan, what invisible forces bind us together? Is it love, as the novel suggests? Is it shared loss? The echoes of our interactions rippling through time.
If you enjoyed this exploration of interconnected lives and the search for meaning, share this episode with anyone who enjoys pondering life's bigger questions. And for a richer experience, consider reading Thornton Wilder's The Bridge of San Luis Rey. And for more mind-blowing content, don't forget to check out Mindful Moments. Nourish your mind on the go.
Yeah, you can find a link in the show notes.
Mindful Moments is full of bite-sized episodes like mini deep dives into science, philosophy, history, and art.
It's perfect for keeping your mind active while on the go.
And make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on our next adventure in knowledge. Until then, keep those brains buzzing. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.